Do you want to learn piano, but it's really daunting to just get started? I've been learning piano for 20 years, and I even went to music school, and my main instrument was classical piano. But guess what? There are a lot of things I would do differently. I could go way back in time and learn piano from scratch. You don't need to take 20 years and music school like I did. So today I'm going to teach you the exact framework I would use if I had to restart learning piano today. And this is going to be a sneak peek of the piano mastery course. So how do I start learning piano? I mean, we have a bunch of keys, we got music. I mean, I have no idea what to do, right? Well, it's very simple. Number one is going to be why are you learning and what do you want to learn? Being a solo pianist versus being an accompaniment, creating music as a producer, versus being a jazz pianist, they're all four very different skill sets. I mean, sure, in the very beginning, it's all going to be the same. You know, you've got your music theory, you've got your technique. That's pretty much everywhere. But if you really want to learn and speed up your process, understand why you're doing it and what you need to learn. Because it's going to look very differently depending on your route. So some necessary tools and resources. Number one, obviously going to need some kind of piano. Now, this is an 88 key weighted piano. And this goes for $100. This is a Baldwin upright. And that's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. So you don't have to get these crazy things. You could start with something super simple. It doesn't have to be 88 keys, doesn't have to be weighted. You can just get yourself a simple keyboard. Make sure you guys like and subscribe because that really lets me know that you guys are liking this kind of video. Now the next thing is going to be setting goals. So what is your goal? A lot of times, especially if we're self-taught, there's so much information out there on learning piano. If you don't have a clear goal or a clear route, it's just going to feel like you're wasting time. For one, I would really start with music theory. I know music theory is super boring, but as soon as you learn music theory, it doesn't matter what route you're taking, whether you're jazz, classical piano, producer, making music in general just so much easier. And guess what? As you're learning music theory, you can work on your technique. So let's say I'm learning scales, and that's really hard for me. Well, while I'm learning scales, I can also work on my technique until you can play that fast. And then you can even learn different exercises. So let's say I want to learn arpeggios. And you get the point. And you learn technique and you learn music theory at the same time. So I go step by step on exactly what you need to learn in the piano mastery course. So we start with getting to know the keyboard. So what the heck is this thing? What are the notes? Then we go into basic piano theory. So notes, chords, where they are, everything like that. We start learning how to make music. We learn all these kinds of things. So being self-taught, now the advantage is you can learn whatever you want and you can go at your own pace. So basically, instead of having to learn super advanced music theory, like when I went to music school, to take 4 semesters of super advanced music theory, I'm never going to use. But if you're self-taught, guess what? You can learn exactly what you want. If you need to learn jazz just so you can write better music, you can do that. And of course, very cost effective. Now the disadvantages of self-taught learning, especially if you don't have a course, is it can be super overwhelming and confusing. Yes, all the information for anything you want to learn is out there. If you want to learn everything about rocket science or quantum physics, you can learn that from YouTube. But why do people prefer to learn from a course? Well, that's because it gives you each thing you need to learn in order, tells you exactly what you need to do. Because a lot of times, you're going to waste a lot of time. You also might miss out on the basics. So like I said, music theory, simple things like technique can be super boring. So you might want to skip that and go into, I'm just going to learn my favorite song. But then you start practicing and developing long-term bad habits. So one bad habit I had a while ago was I would play way down here with my hands. And it made it super hard to play piano, but it also became muscle memory to have my hands down here. So then I had to retrain myself to keep my hands up. So really, you want to really focus on getting the basics right and getting a great foundation for piano. So learn the foundation, learn technique, learn scales, music theory, chords. So if you're somebody that wants to be a jazz pianist or a classical pianist, then it'll be a good idea to start learning to read music. But if you're someone that's just trying to make music, like you're a producer, it might be a skill you want to learn eventually, but it's not going to be very valuable to making music. Just so I can give you a clear outline. Next, you have scales, you have chords, basic music theory, which is that as well, but also just understanding how music works. What are these different scales and what's their purpose? And then a really great one that a lot of people don't talk about is your hearing ability. So I like to be able to hear a song and just play the notes. Now I don't have perfect pitch and a lot of people don't, but there's no worries because you can learn relative pitch. So when I was playing in church, he would just start playing a song and I would just have to pick up on the notes. So if I can hear this note in my head and I hear, I probably know I got it right. Would you look at that? So it's really simple. You just learn relative pitch. So memorize that and then really think of the next one. And that's a really hard skill to learn. Once you can do that, that's going to save you a lot of time, even in learning songs. To learn a popular song for me, all I need to do is look at the chord progression, which is online everywhere. I can learn the chord progression. And and I could just learn the melody by ear. So let's talk about some really common problems when you're starting out on piano. And these are problems that I made, and if I started over, I would make sure I never do. So number one is tension. So especially if we're really stressed out and we're really trying to learn a song, we want to be really tense. That's the problem. It creates really bad habits because then it's really hard to play. And especially if you try to really play fast, you see how you got to be flexible, you got to be loose. So if you really practice a long time with tension, it can be really hard to get rid of the habit. So make sure you're completely relaxed when you play. And do plenty of exercises. You can even do warm-ups. Make sure you do warm-ups before you play anything, just to warm up your fingers so you don't have that tension. The next thing is the wrong sitting position. Now this sounds like who cares how I'm sitting, but if you notice, I don't really have to look down at the piano if I don't want to. I can just play whatever I want. But the only way I can do that is muscle memory. So my brain knows, hey, if I want to play a C, it's right there. If I want to play a G, it's right there. B, D, E, I can play whatever I want. But the only way I was able to do that was through years of having my hands in the perfect position, sitting where I want to sit, in the right position, and my hand just knows that's C. That's C. But if you're always practicing like this, it's going to be really hard to not only get the right technique, but memorize where the notes are. And again, that goes back to when you start, you create bad habits. So then, when I'm playing in front of people and I sit like this, my hands might think to go like this, but I'm nowhere near where I need to be. Another thing that's really crazy that you don't even think about is fingering. So the way that all this stuff looks so easy is that you use the right fingering. So as you see, I only have 5 fingers, but I want to play like a lot of notes. So if you don't learn the proper fingerings, not only, again, you learn the bad technique, but it just becomes a lot harder. If I tried to do that, I'd be really frustrated and I'd be like, how the heck am I supposed to play at scale? So just learn the proper fingerings. Everything becomes so much easier. The next thing is looking down at your hands instead of looking straight ahead or looking at your sheet music or thinking about what you're playing. So again, this is going to take some time. You might have to write the notes to even remember where they are. But the faster that you can do this without looking down is the best. And it's the same with most instruments, even drums. Especially in marching band, you're not supposed to always look down, right? You just know and understand where your instrument is. Especially if you're playing a complex piece of music or you're trying to improvise, you need a lot of mental space. So you can't really be thinking B, D, you know what I mean? So I would memorize as fast as I can how to not even look at the keyboard. Now this is a huge mistake that I would get rid of if I started over, and that's using the pedal to cover mistakes. So the pedal makes a lot of things sound better, right? But I would use it to cover mistakes. Let's say I'm trying to play this, but then I accidentally. Now I'm almost not even hearing. You might not even heard the difference where this versus. I'm using the pedal to cover that one note, and it sounds beautiful, but it's not what I was trying to practice. So try practicing without the pedal. And you can even do staccato, which basically just means short. And as you saw, I started making mistakes up there, and it was a lot more noticeable when I didn't have a pedal. And it also makes you pay attention more to your technique and less about how it sounds. Next is learning too quickly. So I really wanted to learn the most advanced pieces ever right away. But the problem is it takes so long to learn those pieces because I don't have the foundational fingering and piano skills to do it. So you really have to pace yourself and work your way up. But then there's also learning too slow. So you don't want to get dependent on different things that you're doing. Maybe you have the notes written on here, But that should just be in the beginning. You should be working on memorizing so you don't even have to look down at the keys. And even if you do, you don't need those visual aids. And finally, this is my most important point. If I started over, out of my 20 years, this is the hardest habit to get rid of. And that was practicing the same thing that I knew over and over again. It really sucks when you're trying to learn a piece of music or you're trying to learn something that you don't know. But guess what? There's plenty of songs that I do know. So let's say I'm trying to practice 4 hours. My mind is naturally going to want to play the parts I know over and over again. So if I know, hey, my right hand is great at this exercise, so half the time I'm practicing, it feels great to play that, but my weakness is in my left hand, let's say. So I should really be practicing that. And then now I'm trying to go fast, and then you start ignoring what your weaknesses are. And you just drop it entirely. And the entire practice session ends, and you still haven't focused on that weakness. And it's the same with songs, just playing the songs you know over and over again instead of playing what you need to learn. Focus on your weaknesses and be okay to take them slow. And the final and most important thing is to have some kind of roadmap. So if you don't have any roadmap at all, again, yes, all the information is there, but what order do you learn that information in? How do you practice? There's so much that you might actually need guidance on. So that's why I made the Piano Mastery course. I know it's going to be super valuable to you guys if you're trying to learn piano. We also have in the Modern Music Creator Academy, audio production, music entrepreneurship, all that good stuff. So make sure you get that now while it's at a discount. It's not going to last forever. So make sure you get that today. So if you really want to dive deeper into learning piano, this was part of the roadmap, but you're going to need more. So you have to watch this video next, and I'll see you there.